How you doing there, folks? Baiters here for some Fallout 4 lore for y'all. In this video, we're gonna look at the depraved history of one of Vault-Tec's most sinister vaults, Vault 75. So buckle up and gently rub your nipples, and let's get to average baiting, baby! Now, anyone who's played Fallout knows that the vaults are never what they seem. They're usually pitched to unknowing consumers one way and then executed in a more insidious manner. Vaults are a type of subterranean installation initially designed by Vault-Tec Corporation, later constructed in collaboration with Robco Industries. Officially, they were designed for the sole purpose of sheltering up to 1,000 individuals in the event of a nuclear holocaust. However, in reality, they were part of a series of secret experiments orchestrated by the United States government, lacking any moral compass. Now, there are plenty of vaults in Fallout 4 that have horrible intentions in human experiments, some of which came to fruition, others that were foiled by their occupants, and even some that never got started. However, the most horrible of all the vaults in Fallout 4 has gotta be hands down Vault 75. This vault gives depravity a whole new definition. The city of Malden's concern for safety of their children caused their local government to cooperate with Vault-Tec officials as a response to the possibility of a nuclear attack. Malden, Massachusetts provides subsidized enrollment fees for any families wishing to sign up for residency in Vault 75. The newly opened vault even attached directly to Malden's elementary school for easy and efficient access in the event of a nuclear strike on the city. They even authorized special discounts and subsidies for qualifying families that met certain requirements. If one or more of the enrolled family members were children under the age of 15, they got a discount. If the enrolled children attended public school within the township of Malden, they got a discount also. However, there were restrictions as well. There could be no more than 2 adults per qualifying child, although they did permit the individual enrollment of children for families which couldn't afford to also enroll a parent or guardian. Of course, this was just all a ruse, as you'll come to find out. The parents were irrelevant in this unethical experiment. Vault 75 was actually commissioned by the United States military to experiment on children to breed battle-ready super soldiers who would obey orders without a second thought. Built as a long-term sealed environment, it was envisioned as a laboratory focusing on human genome improvement through a combination of selective breeding, hormonal treatments, genetic modification, and an accelerated generational cycle under the command of an overseer with a military background. Research and science staff were isolated from the test subjects, comprising of 88 vault dwellers in total, who were disposed of at 18 years of age unless used to replenish research staff or for breeding the next generation of vault dwellers. So if you're not sure what any of that means, it means they physically, psychologically, and emotionally abuse children to turn them into efficient soldiers, only to kill them off in the event that they turn 18 years old. Now, upon activation of the vault on October 23, 2077, the future vault dwellers were admitted to the vault and underwent standard admission protocols, verification, decontamination, and other necessary measures to ensure their general health. Per experimental guidelines, children under the age of 17 were taken to the atrium to meet the overseer and undergo orientation, including introduction to caretaker robots and sleeping facilities. Other residents, aka the adults, were taken to the holding area and executed by the security staff. The same fate awaited those children who refused to be separated from their parents and remained in the bulkhead area. The project began a week after the Great War. With the parents and young adults killed off, the vault started with a sizable pool of residents and a capable, if not morally bankrupt, Vault-Tec staff. The two groups were intended to stay isolated from one another, particularly from physical contact, with one exception. The overseer was required to participate directly in routine story times each evening to establish themselves as a paternal figure to the children and help them cope with the distress in the early days of the internment. In addition to the standard Vault-Tec childcare consolation protocols, in order to achieve the mission outlined by the Army and Vault-Tec, the overseer followed 6 directives. 1. Residents age 18 and older must be removed from the general population annually. 2. Residents who have exhibited genetic promise are to be preserved for genome harvesting and reintegration. 3. Residents of average genetic promise but high intelligence and docility may be recruited to the research staff at overseer discretion. 4. All other residents to be removed must be killed off. 5. Research staff is responsible for cultivating embryo replacements to maintain consistent resident population numbers. And 6. Vault 75 is to remain sealed until an all-clear order is issued by Vault-Tec. In order to determine genetic promise, residents were subject to an intense training regimen and carefully balanced diet in order to develop their physical traits and combat skills. Their aptitude was carefully determined using a battery of tests, including strenuous exercise, schooling in the art of war, and simulated combat in a specifically constructed gun range. In order to maintain control over the test subjects, they were indoctrinated with fairy tales placing them as heroes to be, intended to save the surface world, also known as Up Top Land, and make it a happy and safe place for all, as can be seen in the directives. However, the reality was a far cry from this ideal picture. To begin with, testing would only cease in the event of cardiac arrest or death. Residents over the age of 18 would be removed from the population by means of a graduation ritual presented by the staff as a ceremonial rite of passage, sending them topside to aid the surface in re-establishing civilization. Ongoing subjects were removed one by one from the main living area and taken to the secure staff area, where their fate was determined by their ratings. Ratings were an aggregate encompassing physical, intellectual, and social prowess. Those with an excellent or superior score would be taken to the lab for harvesting, euthanized by a fake vaccination. This genetic material would be used in a new generation of test subjects created by veto fertilization. Subjects with an excellent or superior rating in intelligence and high docility would be selected to replenish the ranks of the staff. Everyone else would be killed. The replenishment of the science staff by relying on the resident pool was anticipated by the designers. Candidates meeting the criteria were selected at the discretion of the overseer and the chief scientist. Those who did not agree were disposed of along with the inferior graduates. Those who did were separated from the general population in junior research positions, such as observation deck or transcription duties, for a period of at least 15 years to prevent test subjects from recognizing them. They would undergo strict training in a variety of science disciplines, with many quickly developing a sense of maturity separating them from their peers. Of course, for security reasons, they were not informed of the precise nature of the experiments taking place in the vault, with most believing they were creating warriors to help protect the surface. The experiment continued for years, with new generations of soldiers being bred, tested, and harvested or disposed of. The children continued to believe they were being trained to become heroes, saving the people of the surface from monsters and bandits. As they constantly ran the combat simulation, learning firearms, shooting holographic targets like a lab rat in a giant maze, the scientists were unknowingly, slowly engineering their own demise. The last genetic harvest under Chief Scientist Gibson brought in exceptional genetic material. Only 74% of the graduating test subjects were disqualified as inferior, with the remainder harvested and one recruited for the scientific staff. Many of the vital organ initiatives paying dividends, meeting goals thought a decade off. The children were strong, fast, resistant to pain, with increasing resistance to cardiac arrest under duress, with the only problem highlighted by Gibson being aggression levels. The latest group of graduates suffering from a high incidence of psychological breakdown. The proposed solution included administering stronger tranquilizers in the food supply, but this would be a cause of too little, too late. Washington was the only science staff recruit from the graduating class, selected due to his good problem solving and critical thinking skills, as well as his high susceptibility to suggestion. Although the overseer viewed his attachment to the younger population as a problem, Gibson dismissed these concerns, assigning him to the observation deck and planning to keep him in the dark until he was ready to be accepted as a full researcher. For the time being, he would oversee aerobic tests and handle manual labor, like incinerating the remains of inferior graduates. He did not notice the nature of the incinerated material. This negligence would also result in him failing to report the scheming of two of his fellow peers, James S. and Rowett L. These two lab assistants were part of the test subject population in charge of the gun range. Working on the range, however, aroused their suspicion, and the two soon started to prepare an insurrection. Washington's negligence allowed them to mess with the combat trial system, allowing them to continue unhindered, slowly stockpiling ammunition from the range to create improvised explosives. Rowett's plan was simple. They were to dispose of the overseer and any helpers they may have. The discovery of laboratory notes lost by Superior Bizzle only spurred them to intensify work on breaking out of the vault. After recruiting the rest of the residents, they were almost ready for the attack, even if they had to face superiors or robots on the way. Once they ensured the youngest kids were out of harm's way, coordinating with Alma L to keep them occupied during the attack, they breached the secure door leading into the restricted section. The scientists could not fight back, with many killed at their workstations. The children were free, however their fates were still unknown. However, it is possible some of them became gunners, as this vault is littered with gunners when it's discovered by the lone survivor. But that's not a fact, that's just conjecture. After the children left Vault 75, it would later be taken over by the gunners. With the gunners expanding their operation throughout the Commonwealth, Vault 75 became an obvious choice for a strong point once they located it, renovating the systems and clearing out much of the debris that remained in place. The garrison began to convert it into a proper military bunker. In 2287, they are in the process of clearing out the children's toys and other remnants of the experiment, while bringing in weapons and gunner equipment to fortify the vault. And there you have it, folks. That's the horrifying truth of Vault 75. Hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, and you want to see more lore-based videos like this one, then share this video with your friends and leave a like. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, and if you're lucky, at the stroke of midnight, a tiny little Averagebaters fairy will come and tickle your butthole. Hope to see y'all again next time, and keep on average baiting, baby!